Good afternoon. My name is Jake Paul. Can you tell me your full name, please?
My name is Catherine Smith.
Thank you. And what shall I call you?
Catherine is fine.
Thank you. Can I see your identification, please?
Of course, here you go.
Thank you. In this first part, I'm going to ask you some questions about yourself. Let's talk about where you study. Where do you study?
I study in Vancouver at the University of British Columbia.
What do you like about the course?
I really enjoy my course because as an English major, essentially all I do is read books, which is one of my favorite hobbies.
Is there anything you don't like about the course?
I think some classes in the course could be structured to facilitate better discussion within the class. So I think that could be improved.
Let's move on to talk about cooking. Do you like cooking?
I do like cooking, although I don't get to do it as often as I would like to.
Why?
Primarily because I have a very busy schedule, so I don't always have time at the end of the day to cook a full meal.
Who cooks food at your home?
Growing up, my mom always cooked food at my house. Since I moved out and live by myself, I have now taken the knowledge she has given me and cook for myself.
Tell me about a traditional dish from your country.
Something that is traditional to Canada would be bannock. It is a dish from Indigenous peoples of Canada, and it is very easy to make. I made it at summer camp once with just water and flour.
Which meal is important to you? Breakfast, lunch, or dinner?
I think lunch is the most important meal for me, just because I am not much of a breakfast person, so I really rely on lunch to keep me energized throughout my day.
Let's move on to talk about parks. Do you like to visit parks?
I love visiting parks. I love really experiencing the nature and enjoying both trees and water, depending on what kind of park you're at.
When did you last visit a park?
I last visited a park this past Sunday, actually. I went down to the park next to my house and got to hang out on the beach and go through the trees.
What activities do people do in a park?
I've seen people do lots of different things in the park, mostly tennis at the park near my house because there's a tennis court. Although in Vancouver, with all of the water, a lot of people will also do water sports at the parks.
Why do children like to visit parks?
I think children really enjoy parks because of all of the adventure there is in nature. So they can explore lots of things, find cool rocks, find cool bugs, and even do simpler things just like riding bikes and running through the park.
Thank you, Catherine. Now, in this part, you'll have 1 minute to make notes and 2 minutes to talk about your topic. Do you understand?
Yes.
I want you to talk about a film that you saw. All right, Catherine, whenever you're ready, you can start.
The most recent film that I saw was here in Vancouver at a pretty small theater near my house. I saw it probably about 2 weeks ago, actually right before the Oscars took place, and I saw it with one of my closest friends. The movie is about an incredible piano player who is African American in a very, very tense time in the United States. He is essentially embarking on a tour with his band in the deep south of America. So racial tensions were very high at that point, and he is looking to hire a driver to take him to his events, as well as a sort of bodyguard to keep him safe. Unwittingly to both of them, the bodyguard becomes a pretty good friend of this piano player, and through this process of driving him around and taking care of him, really sees firsthand what these racial prejudices are doing to this incredible man, and really grows an appreciation both for this music that Don Shirley is playing, as well as for the trouble that he's going through as a Black piano player in a tense time. He also is a very low-class man, which is a really interesting comparison to this piano player. It really reverts a lot of stereotypes because as a low-class white man, he's constantly being sort of shown up in terms of his self-presentation by this black piano player. There's a really incredible scene towards the end of the movie where it's a sort of coming together of this black man and his community as he plays this incredible classic piano piece in a predominantly African-American bar. And all of the people in the bar come together to clap and cheer him on.
Thank you, Catherine. Do you generally see a lot of movies?
I generally watch a lot of movies, but I don't usually go out to the theater to see them.
Thank you. We talked about a film that you saw, and I'd like to ask you some questions about this in general. Let's talk about trends in cinema. Has the popularity of cinema increased in recent years?
I think the popularity of movies has increased in recent years, but the act of going to the theater has probably decreased since computers have become more popular.
What kinds of movies are popular with young people, in your opinion?
A lot of my friends really enjoy movies with a political element to it or some sort of social theme. Other than that, though, Marvel movies, superhero movies are always a hit.
Was it always like this?
I think that superhero movies have always been very popular. I think that has always been true. But I don't necessarily think that a more social justice-minded movie has been the most popular.
Which is better, reading a book or watching a film?
They definitely both have their merits. I really appreciate being able to see what I'm experiencing at a movie. But at the same time, I think that nothing will beat a book in my heart.
Let's move on to talk about movies and history. Do you think movies show history as it happened?
I don't think that movies, generally speaking, show history as it happened. I think that some of them try to, but I don't think they'll ever be able to get the full scope of history.
Do directors have a responsibility to show history accurately?
I think that depends on the type of movie. Again, I think if a director is going to advertise a movie as being historically accurate, then absolutely they have a responsibility to portray it as accurately as possible. But I think if it's sort of a fantasy or fictional take on a historic movie, it doesn't necessarily have to be the most accurate.
So it's got to be clear as to what they're doing.
Exactly, yes.
Should censorship in movies exist then?
I am not the biggest fan of censorship. I think that censorship can be extremely limiting in what people experience and what people will take away and understand from a movie. So no, I don't think censorship should exist.
Thank you, Catherine. And that's the end of the speaking test.
In this first part, I'm going to ask you some questions. Let's talk about where you study. Where do you study? What do you like about the course? Is there anything you don't like about the course? Let's talk about cooking. Do you like cooking? Who cooks food at your home? Tell me about a traditional dish from your country. Which meal is important to you? Breakfast, lunch, or dinner? Let's talk about parks. Do you like to visit parks? When did you last visit a park? What activities do people do in a park? Why do children like to visit parks? Now, in this part, you will have 1 minute to make notes and 2 minutes to talk about the topic. Do you understand? I want you to talk about a film you saw. Thank you. Do you generally see a lot of movies? We talked about a film that you saw, and I'd like to ask you some questions about this in general. Let's talk about trends in cinema. Has the popularity of cinema increased in recent years? What kinds of movies are popular with young people? Which is better, reading a book or watching a film? Let's talk about movies and history. Do you think movies show history as it happened? Do directors have a responsibility to show history accurately? Should censorship in movies exist? Thank you. That's the end of the speaking test.
And that's it for this video. Smash that like button if you've liked this video. Thanks for watching.